So this is the mysteries of Christian mysticism, and we're talking about going within. And I'd like to share a little bit of what Meister Eckhart had to say. He said that the kingdom of heaven, in regards to Jesus's statement, the kingdom of heaven is within you, said this idea is often associated with his teachings on inner spirituality and the direct experience of God. In one of his sermons, Meister Eckhart said, "The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one seeing, one knowing, one love." This statement reflects his belief in the profound connection between the human soul and the divine. Meister Eckhart emphasized the importance of turning inward through contemplative practices such as meditation and prayer. You know, that's an aspect of meditation that we don't talk about very often, which is prayer and how we make connection. And there's a real correspondence between the way I practice meditation, which is the column of light meditation, and prayer, in that it is a direct way to connect with the God within. We used to teach that back in the days when there were regular telephones, we used to say that whenever you contact God, it's like dialing somebody on the phone, and when they pick up, you can, in that space between when they pick up on the other end and before they start speaking, you've made contact. And so this meditation is like that. When we go within, when we back up into the column of light behind us, we should feel that connection. It's like all of a sudden we know that we've entered into a different kind of space, that there's a dimension that is larger, it's deeper, more expansive, and the way we can tell is that when we make that contact, our thoughts come to a standstill, because what we're doing is we're encountering a field of energy that is so great that it's kind of like walking up to the edge of the Grand Canyon. If you've never seen it and you walk up to it for the first time, it literally takes your breath away. I mean, it stuns the mind just by the sheer volume of the magnitude of its presence. What I want to work on this morning with you, and I thought we would try it, just kind of do a demonstration right now. So if you'll all just sit up straight, you don't have to be perfectly straight, but just to where you feel like the energy is moving through your body. And we'll take 3 deep breaths, and then we'll kind of walk our way into that space. So let's begin. When you breathe in, do belly breathing, so that as you're breathing in, your belly extends out so that you fill your lungs. Breathe in. And then breathe out through your mouth and give a nice, satisfying sigh, just like that. Let's take another breath in, belly out. Breathe out. Breathe in, belly out. Breathe out. Just let your body sink into your chair. Feel the weight of it. Just let all your muscles relax. And normally we find ourselves in our forehead or in our eyes. That's where we normally locate our consciousness. So just move your consciousness to the back of your head. Go there. So you're not looking with your eyes anymore. So we're using a different part of our brain. And now extend your consciousness even farther back, about 6 inches behind you. And in there, you find a vast inner space. Now, to help sense the energy of that, is visualize a column of light. Again, you don't have to look at it, just feel it. Feel it as though it's a heat lamp shining on your back. You don't have to turn around to look. You can feel its presence. So the vast inner space has energy, huge energy. Let this energy feel like a charging dock, the kind you put your phone in. Just feel that energy come into your body through your nervous system, innervate all parts of your body. And make that connection. If you find your attention moving back into your eyes, just disengage from there and go back into the inner space, vast inner space behind you. Just let the presence of it, sheer magnitude of it, just engulf you. Okay, so now let's come back out. Wheel your toes, feel your hands. When you're ready, open your eyes. So let's talk about this. So did anyone have trouble doing the exercise?
It can be very difficult to disengage from visualizing, you know, um, and letting other interior senses have their say, because habitually vision is always so dominant, and I'm always like I instantaneously build a mental picture out of any sense input that I get. It takes some profound relaxation and around those mental habits for me, you know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
instead of I'm not trying to look out the back of my head. I'm not trying to spin my eyeballs around and put my visual center here. Um,
right.
I'm I'm trying to let another kind of sense apparatus, like another sensorium, present itself through experience. But vision is just a real it's such a tyrant.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's why I like to use the idea of a heat lamp,
yeah.
because
That
so
really that really helped. Yeah, that really helped.
and it's well, last night I was thinking about this too, and it's I had this the imagery of walking into a meeting, into a very important meeting. Say, if I were a lawyer and I'm coming in to give a presentation, and I've got my entire staff marching in behind me, and I'm not looking at my staff, but I know they're there. There's like 5 or 6 people marching into this room with me, and it's like they're part of my presence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's kind of like that too. It's you don't have to look in order to know that something's there. And also, being conceptual about it, just thinking about it, like with the column of light, knowing that it's there, not seeing it. And even if you're having trouble feeling it, like the column of light or the heat lamp, you know it's there. It's kind of like knowing that there is such a thing as true vertical.
Mm.
We don't have like trying to align ourselves with that true vertical can be difficult sometimes, because it's hard to locate, but just knowing that it's a real thing, that there is such a thing as true vertical, extending from the center of the earth right up through us, out straight into space. Just knowing that, and that's a different faculty, right? It's different from your visual sense. It's different from feeling sense. It's a cognitive sense. It's a deep inner knowing that, yes, this is true. There's no doubt about that. So that can help too.
I like the way that Chris put it. He kind of verbalized everything that I can't verbalize, but that's kind of the way, that I felt. Unfortunately, as soon as we got quiet, I noticed that this fan was making noise. And so that was distracting. And it was difficult for me to get out of the visual because right here, oftentimes, I see one eye. And it's difficult for me to not see that eye. But it was either something that I read or one of your videos, Michael, that you talked about looking into the ball and backing out, and how big, how much bigger the internal part is. And so I tried backing out. And then when you were talking about the column of light, of course, I wanted to go to the ball of light because I've always been very successful with the ball of light exercise. And so, then my mind started in with well, you've been successful with that. Why can't you be successful with this? Let's try really hard to feel it. So, and then the fan started again. So yeah, I was having a lot of difficulty. I can see it'll take a lot of practice.
It's such a natural thing that I'm hoping that it's not that difficult. So I keep looking for different metaphors or different. Metaphors don't do it really. It's more an embodied feeling of it. And one of the things that comes to me, I don't know if you've ever sat in a stream of water where the water is kind of pushing its way around you. And you're like, if there's a small waterfall and you lean back into it, and you can just feel the water coming over you, and then almost as though it's moving through you, out past your feet and moving away in the distance. Our being is like that. We stream into this world from a place that is completely dark and unknown to us. It's the same way our words. Where do our words come from when we speak? We don't laboriously put together our sentences, unless we're writing, but when we're just speaking, like I'm speaking right now, those words are already, it's as though they're already formed, and then they're just streaming through me. Well, our whole being is like that. So it's, I think the biggest revelation we can receive is that we are an energetic being, that the point of our being is radiant. It comes through, we manifest into the world as though we are like a flashlight. Our consciousness, and not just our consciousness, because there's way more to us than our consciousness. So much of us we're not even conscious of. For instance, where our words come from, where we are coming from. So when we can get it, that this is an energy, that we are energetic beings, and we can use the word spirit and energy synonymously here. It's like spirit is energy. It's conscious, alive energy with a personality that has a direction and a purpose. That's like what spirit means, right? It's like the school spirit or the spirit of an organization. It's what it's about. It's the personality of it. Not just the personality as an ecstatic sense, but it's personality in action. So we are a personality in action, and the very core nature of that spirit is energy. We are a point of radiant light, of radiant spiritual light into the world. So if this seems out of reach, then what we need to do is kind of reverse engineer it in a way where we visualize a column of light that, and light is by its very nature radiant energy. That's what light is, but it's energetic. And the brighter we see it, the more energy then is available. And then it's like putting a template onto the reality. We're creating a template in our imagination, and then we're putting that template onto the reality of our being, and then they come together so that we begin to experience the reality of who and what we are, which is a streaming force, this streaming energy into the world. So this is like the beginning of spiritual awakening. This is where, because once we realize that we have this stream of consciousness, this stream of energetic spirit coming through us, then we can start to move back into it and start to feel our way to the source of it. You see, where is that stream coming from? That is like a portal. That's like a doorway. And this is what is called self-realization. Because once you back up into that and you start to get a sense of where that's coming from, there's an event that happens, and it's where you slip into that portal and you become one with it. You enter into the all-encompassing presence, reality of God. And that just washes everything away. This is like the true baptism, where you become literally born again. This is where all of the external part of you drops away, and you begin to identify isn't even the right word. You know who you are. You know from whence you come. And the more you live in accordance with that, and the more you open up to it and let it move through you, then the more it transforms you. And the more you become one with the all. This is truly, when you go in through that portal, you are in non-dual consciousness, because there is no time and there is no space. So fortunately, as Jesus said, when he referred to the kingdom of heaven, this is what he's talking about. This is where the kingdom of heaven is. And so the kingdom of heaven is non-dual consciousness. He was also very careful to say that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, meaning that we can grasp it. It's not something that's distant from us. And it's like Paul said, St. Paul, it's closer than our hands and feet. So this is, our feet is how we locate ourselves in the world. Our hands are what we grasp, what we can feel, what we sense. So the message is clear. We're moving 180 degrees away from our physical senses. This is not about feeling the breeze on your cheek, or to appreciate the flowers in the field, and to get quiet and one with nature. No. This is, it's like in the movie, it said, hang on to your seat, because Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye. This is where truly you leave this world and you enter into the world of God. And that world is vast. It is extraordinarily present. That's, if anything defines this, it's where presence and energy and light all become one thing. And it's so powerful that it blows your mind. It just wipes it clean. And there you are, fresh and new. But we have this body, right? We've got a body, so it's going to snap back. We're going to be, all we have to do is just have the slightest thought, and boom, we're back into this present earthly reality. So we don't have to worry about getting lost in there or getting sucked up and being, in there forever. Some people want to do that. I don't. I mean, I like it here. I like being here. It's like a friend of mine once said, if there's no sailing in heaven, I'm not going. Right. so but it's easier. See, part of the problem is that it's kind of like fish stories or bear stories. You get a group of hunters out in the forest at night, and what does the conversation go to but bears, right? And the more it goes there, the bigger the bear gets, the meaner the bear gets. And the same with fish stories.
I once preached a sermon, Michael. It was about a day I spent fishing with my grandfather and my, some family floating down the river, down the Duck River, down to our property and everything. And in the homily, I talked about like having caught more fish than ever in my life. I caught 35 fish. And this guy came up to me after the service and said, "There's no way you caught 35 fish in a day."
Yep.
Do you not know the nature of fish stories?
Right.
If I told you I caught 10 fish, that wouldn't have been very impressive to you. But for me, it was a big deal. The truth was I'd forgotten how many fish I caught, but it felt like 35.
Yep. Yep.
And they were small too. So however many there were, but they were biting like crazy that day.
Well, you're not alone in that. I mean, every preacher since the beginning of time, and real preachers have had the experience, right? In one form or another, they have touched the hem of the garment, and it shot through them. Just this immediate recognition of the presence of God, and then they have to speak about it, right? But every preacher, every teacher, every guru, it's like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The experience gets more and more awesome and more, and the pedestal upon which this experience is placed, this revelation, just gets higher and higher and higher till it gets so high nobody can see it anymore. It's like it's impossible. It's an impossible reach. So I'm convinced that, and not only just by what I read in the New Testament, but by my own experience, that this is not that hard.
Yeah.
This is something we all can do because we've got the mechanism. Our very physiology, our anatomy, the way we're put together is designed to not only be in this world, but to allow that greater dimension to flow through us, because that's the very source of our life. That is the life energy.
I'm a couple of things. I'm glad you mentioned the power passing through, that having touched the hem of Jesus' garment. The image I've always gotten when the woman with the issue of blood touches the robe of Jesus is that she's doing it from behind. Like he doesn't see her up front, he feels her from behind.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's grasped, and it's not the fact that she touched his robe. Like, vestments can transmit, chi, but it's that she was from behind, reaching into his a very, I guess, a very advanced form of energy awareness that that's experienced through the back, through what's behind us.
Yeah.
There's so much in the, like, just throwing some things out there. Like Rudolf Steiner talks about the awakening of dormant sense perceptions, sense capacities, um, or even like evolving our intended future capacities through specific exercises that open up awareness through back here. And he calls this the the vision when we open up to clairvoyance through the back of the skull. It all sounds very weird, but that's what he talks. He says he calls this the vision of the sun at midnight. If you think about how the Earth is, there's half of the Earth is out to the horizon is being illuminated by the sun, but there's everything on the underside of the Earth, like everything down below that's not illumined by the sun. And that's similar to us. Like we've got the front part, all of our senses, the ones that we're most aware of are out here in front of us. We walk this direction, our eyes face in this direction. We're always listening more, we're not really omnidirectional. We're more like hearing gets wrapped into vision. We're building that picture. So this is like our front is like the upper part of the Earth facing the sun, and back here is like the part of the Earth that's not that isn't illuminated. When we break through to the place where we can, in a way, like it's as if, since we're not capable of, in our physical senses, of seeing the spiritual world, it's as if we are on the dark side. Like we're in our psychic experience, we're now on the moonlit side, and the sun is underneath. So when we open up our clairvoyance, it activates something behind us, and we can see the sun as if through the Earth at midnight, and the Earth becomes transparent, like it becomes the crystalline globe. So
That's beautiful. Yeah,
that's his kind of complex image for how clairvoyance awakens. But for him, it has a lot to do with connecting to and through what we literally cannot. We're not physically equipped to see behind us. It's one of the great. I mean, to me, it's one of the great weirdnesses about our physiology, as it seems like a very it's not a great survival thing.
I know, right?
not to have eyes in the back of your head. I mean, just have one back here would be helpful.
Like a backup camera.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and yet there's so many peculiar things like associated with psychic perception through the spinal column, through the rear of the head. So many trance mediums will talk about the way spirits connect through the gate at the nape of the neck.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think we want to be sure that whatever we're connecting to back there is the right sort of thing.
Yeah.
I want to make sure those centers are properly protected.
Yeah, that's why we do everything in the name of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He's a big brother. So, or whatever equivalent you have, whatever embodies light, life, and love, whoever for you embodies light, life, and love. Because essentially we're talking about the sun. We're talking about the great Christ, the Christ spirit, the being, the Lord of the sun, the center of this whole system, this whole being within which we live. But Chris, there's do you know the guy Ian McGilchrist talks about brain? I think he's a cognitive scientist. Anyway, he wrote The Master and His Emissary, and he talks about right and left brain anatomy. And it's very much like that. He says that the left hemisphere has to do with everything we're engaged with consciously, everything that is aligned with this forward direction aspect of our lives, because we're always moving towards something, and we're calculating and predicting all of that. But what's behind us, like you said, it's very important what's behind us, and that's what the right hemisphere takes care of. That's the subconscious. At the subconscious level, we're remembering, which is where memory comes in. We're remembering what's there, and we're also constructing possibilities so that we're aware of what might happen, and so it cues the conscious mind or the left hemisphere to be aware of certain signals, and if any of those signals are triggered, then we turn to look right? So there is that aspect of the, because, you know, if you relax for a second and just become aware of your visual field, you'll notice that it's like a spotlight, you know, it's circular. And it's at the end, you've got your peripheral vision, and then where your peripheral vision ends, it's dark. You know, it's completely dark, but it has a sense of radiance to it. It's radiant darkness. So there's energy back there, and that's because of our proprioception, which is our sense of ourselves in space. Our proprioception is very much active back there, and our predictive sense is back there. So, and we know that we have a field of energy, and that field of energy does not end with our visual sense. Our field of energy is behind us as well. So, and that can be a little bit, that can be hard to connect with, you know, to see yourself in a sphere of light. But if it is for you, I know in the beginning I had a real hard time with that. I couldn't quite extend that sphere behind me or above me, below me. But if you take a small version of yourself, just visualize a small, tiny version of yourself, place it in front of you, and then surround it with a perfect sphere, that makes it easier to visualize. And then you just identify with it, right? That is you. And then it makes it easier to, that will start to, that's the template that you create that then connects with the reality, and then the two become one. So, and let's consider too, what part of you is behind you? It's your spine, your spinal cord. It's the main tree. It's like it's all happening. And it's not like we are, you know, nervous energy. The energy in our nerves, like electricity in the walls, it's not the same as spiritual energy, or the energy of spirit, but it obeys the same laws. There's a resonance, there's a harmonic resonance with nerve energy and the energy of spirit, or the energy of the all. So that as the all is and radiates and has this personality and sense of being in its own direction, that resonates with our organic nervous energy, or nerve energy, our nervous system, like it's a tree, right? And it very much looks like an antenna. If you think of it as an antenna, it's picking up those higher frequencies, and like a step down transformer, then it steps it down through the various centers in the body, or the chakras, and you know, the ductless glands. It's such an intricate, sophisticated system that we have. And see, this is the thing, it's all set up to do just that. Our whole body is set up to be a receiving mechanism, an organism to receive the wholeness, the universe, the God, the all of that is, we are like a focal point for it. And then we become like an inlet for it. And as we open up and allow that spirit energy into us, then we become an outlet. And when we truly harmonize with that, when we speak, when we act, we become the word. That is the word. That's the mouth of God in there, through which all things that are created get created. As it streams through us, we speak, not just with our mouth, but with our thoughts. We speak the world into existence. In our case, it's our personal world. So this is what we want to do, is we want to access that. We want to get there and start to work with it and and expose ourselves to it. So one of the best exercises to get a sense of radiant energy is the candle exercise, where you sit with a candle in front of you, so that it's the focal point of all your attention, no distractions, and you just concentrate on it, and you think about how the process of the flame, the combustion, all of that, the physical aspect of it, and then you focus on the light itself and how it radiates outward in all directions. And if you do that long enough, you then get a sense of that radiant quality. And there again, it's like a template, and because it resonates with the reality of you, because we are a radiant being, you look at it on the outside, and then the inside goes, hey, I recognize that. That's what I am. You see? And then there's a thing that happens. It's like you get ignited from within, and all of a sudden, boom, I am a radiant being, and I'm very conscious of that. You see? This is called the initiation of illumination. This is when you come into the realization that your mind, your being, your person, all of it infused with your personality, is radiating into the world, and wherever you go, you are like a miniature sun. And you can spell that S-O-N or S-U-N. You become a point of radiance in the world, and what you're radiating then is God energy. And you become a sun, an S-O-N. It's or sex doesn't matter. We become like those Egyptian artwork where you see Ra, the sun, and all the rays coming out, and each ray ends in a hand. We become the hand of the Father. We become the agency by which God operates in the world. We become the interface, the mediator. We become a son of God. We sit at the right hand of the Father. This is all Christian symbolism, but it translates into all the other religions. We become an extension of the all. We're not just a created thing. We're not just, God doesn't make us like we make a loaf of bread. It's not like putting a bunch of ingredients together and making a thing. We are not a thing. See, that's the reason why we talk about the Son of God, and God as Father and Mother and divine. This is why we think of God in terms of person, because God is not a thing. This great being that we live in is not just a mechanism. It is a living, breathing, sentient, energetic person with personality, with direction, with a sense, and it has an exploratory aspect to it. It wants to know. It wants to know itself. So it extends itself into all parts of itself. And we are part of that. We are that part of that extension of the all into the particular. And then we report back, right? We become the hands and eyes and ears, and we become the hand of God, just like in that Egyptian mural. This is who and what we are. We're not a thing. We are a living being. So the way we get in touch with that is through swimming upstream. We get a sense of this radiance that we are, and then we swim upstream or back into it. We just back into it. Because every time when we look with our eyes, it's almost like looking and conceptualizing are so intermeshed that it's hard to separate the two. We're always trying to understand and frame what we're seeing so that it makes sense, so that we can have a way to operate in the world. We want to shut that down and feel it instead. And the only way to do that is to move away from the visual sense and get in touch with the feeling not in terms of emotion, but in terms of sensing on the spiritual level, on the energy level. We want to sense the energy of it. And the way to do that is to back up into it and to feel it as a powerful, radiant presence. And it's right there.
In the practical, everyday sense, do you have this experience 24/7?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm absolutely perfect 24/7. I am totally God realized from the time I open my eyes in the morning till the time I go to bed. Except when I'm eating, except when I'm watching Netflix, except when, I'm driving my car. Let's see, there are a lot of times.
Sorry, I've got to run, you guys. So it's great to see you today. Thank you, Michael. Blessings to everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Good to see you, Chris.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, no, this is what, we go in and we come out. We go in and we come out. So but it's kind of like sunbathing. You don't want to do that all the time. You'll burn to a crisp. So every time you go in, it affects you a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. This is why, like in the Catholic Church and other churches that practice communion, it's why some of the sacraments are repeatable. It's like communion is repeatable because it's that pattern. You come into that real, direct contact, and then you come out. You come in, you go out. It's like breathing in, out. And every time it changes you just incrementally. So this is why, meditation is so important. Now, what I'm trying to do is to make meditation not such a ritual, not where you don't have to set up a time every day, like, at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're going to meditate for 20 minutes. And then in the evening, 20 minutes again. That's very hard to do. And it's too hard. I think it's too hard. So, but once you get the connection established, all you have to do is think about it. Like once you get a sense of that column of light behind you, you can be standing in line at the grocery store and just think about it, and then you're in it. See, with eyes wide open, you're walking between the worlds. You're in that world and you're in this world, and you're making a direct connection between the two, and then the energy of spirit can move through you and affect the world. You see? And then things like synchronicity go up, perception gets clarified, insights come, the solution to problems come more easily, your creativity goes through the roof, your imaginative ability gets enhanced. All of these things, it's like Chris was talking about earlier, all of these dormant parts of us start to awaken. And then we become more clairvoyant, or clairaudient, or claircognizant, clairsentient. You see, this is the transformation we're looking for. Yeah.
Sort of standing back, observing, the intellect does come into play eventually. Then I thought that because it's no good in this dark bliss, you can't use that every day,
I know, what good is it, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to put any, lay any burden upon anyone. This should not be a burden. This should be an enhancement. And it is an enhancement. So
Right.
so when you're in there, you're not thinking, but you're wide awake. You see, you're wide awake. And this is what in terms of the intellect, this is what St. Paul was talking about when he said, put on the mind of Christ, because that is the mind of Christ, that intense awareness, energy, spirit, all of that coming through us. We put that on and that changes us. Then our intellect gets sharper. We think better. We think more comprehensively. We're able to hear what other people are saying better. Everything starts to awaken because these dormant parts of our brain are starting to pop open, and even subtler structures than that. We start to come alive. We wake up. It's like when they asked Buddha, they said, "Are you a saint?" He said, "No, I'm not a saint." He said, "Are you a prophet?" "No, I'm not a prophet." So, well, what the hell are you? He said, "I am awake."
Wake.
This is what we're going for. We want to wake up. This is the awakening.
I find that there are things that come out of my mouth that don't come from me. I feel like
Yep.
I'm channeling sometimes, and she says, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Yep.
Is that one of the benefits of this? Is that what's happening?
Absolutely.
Because that's what I feel like is happening.
Yep. Yeah, I have a teacher friend who we were laughing about this because sometimes we'd go to teach a class and not have a clue what we were going to talk about.
Oh,
right?
I've done that many times as a teacher. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
And it ends up being the perfect class. Yeah.
and what you do, and this sounds crazy, but it really is true. I can remember doing it, and I still do it sometimes. It's like you don't know what you're going to say, so you just start moving your mouth, and you start with a sound like, and all you have to do is be willing, right? You have to put yourself on the line, and then just start speaking, and it comes flooding through, and you have no idea where it came from. I have learned so much from my own classes because sometimes I don't know where it came from. I'll say some things sometimes I have never heard before, never even thought of before. Please don't use this to distrust what I say. But it really does work that way. Because why? Because it's the Spirit of God speaking through you. And you don't have to be holy to do that. That's a concept. That's a misdirect. It's a red herring. This is so I don't know what it is, but anybody can do it out of the mouths of babes, right? Out of the mouths of babes, the truth will come. And like when Jesus was coming into Jerusalem and the Pharisees everybody was cheering him, and they said, "Make these people shut up." And he said, if I make them shut up, the rocks and stones themselves will cry out. You see, because that's the nature of the Spirit of God. It wants to express. You see, it wants to express. And it made us as vehicles for that expression. And thus we get Michelangelo's and Leonardo da Vinci's and Rumi and all of these amazing people throughout history who seem to be fonts of wisdom and extraordinary creativity. You see, that's how that works. God wants to express through us. That's the Holy Spirit. You see, it wants to create, it wants to explore, it wants to find everything that it can do, what's possible. God is consumed with what is possible. You see, that's what drives evolution. That's what drives creativity. That is the Holy Spirit of God. So by meditating and by getting in touch with it, by becoming aware of the power in our own spine and leaning back into it and moving away from visual and into the sensing of the inner plane, we gradually become more and more aware of that spirit, and we surrender to it, and then it starts to manifest in our lives. That's the whole point of it. And then we enter into that love relationship with God, and our spirituality becomes an affair. It becomes a love affair. That's all. We get consumed by this spirit, by this wondrous thing that is trying all the time to move and express and create through us. Okay, well, we've run at least a full hour. Are there any other questions or?
The question about knowledge.
Okay, yeah, what part does knowledge play?
I don't believe it comes out of books and yeah, thanks.
Yeah, the books, books and especially scripture, they are, the words are catalysts. You see, what we seek to learn on the outside is already present on the inside. We already know everything. It's better to say we have access to everything that is known. Everything is known. And the way we're set up is that we have access to that. And then we start to put the pieces together, and that builds our intellect, right? We through building blocks. But the only knowledge that really sticks and can form an intellect is the knowledge that we embody. We have to work with ideas and concepts, bring them into concrete reality before we truly know it. And then it becomes lodged in our flesh, and that's then forms the intellect. See, so it's a constant dance. It's a constant drawing out, becoming aware, conceptualizing, and then enacting. And then as we enact, we build a model, and that model then becomes part of us. And that's our intellect. Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Neetu. Ralph,
Thank you.
nice having you. And we'll see you next time. Oh, and yeah, practice this. I always forget to give homework. Practice this. Take care.